Well, I saw the same thing you did and ignored it for the same reason. And maybe somebody had some information that this had been set up ahead of time. It's hard to tell.
Well, we know they had NLEO-10 with simulated nuke attacks set to start on May 6th, and that came out in mainstream news, but then they, quote, canceled it. It is suspicious that I hadn't thought of that. Great point, Pastor. I hadn't thought of it's too incredible, Bob.
It is, and, you know, our problem is that we got to back into everything. We have nothing at our disposal. I mean, we have to use our ingenuity, and it's hard to cover everything.
Pastor, great points. Anything else?
Yes, that's why, Alex, you and Steve Quell and people like you guys, the one you had on there yesterday, Red, I believe is his name.
Red Beckman.
That's why you guys are so important, because you help everyone else get involved, and you got more eyes seeing things that you can't see. So my whole thing is just hang in there and just keep putting your faith and trust in the Lord, and just keep doing what God has called you to do, Alex, because you're allowing more and more people to wake up.
Pastor, that's a great point. God bless you. We'll be back in 70 seconds. It is already the fourth and final hour on this May 7th, Friday edition. Bob Chapman of the InternationalForecaster.com is our guest, with the best market and economic analyst out there. Predicted everything that's currently happening years and years ago with the derivatives bomb run by Goldman Sachs and the other 6 criminal banks. We're taking your phone calls, your questions, your comments about what you saw happen yesterday with the Plunge protection team when the market dropped 1,000 points because of European trading. They pumped it back up through manipulation. That's on record. They have that power. The media is saying a fat finger did it. Maybe the Easter Bunny did it. Now, I want to go through a lot of calls quickly and go through a bunch of Twitter questions here because I also want to, if you can get in, have brokers or traders call in. We've confirmed that all over the country and the world, regular brokers and traders and day traders couldn't get online during this scenario. Let's go ahead and take calls for Bob Chapman. Let's talk to Al in Texas. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Alex. I'm always happy to hear Bob Chapman. He's great. I am asking him specifically about his advice that we have what amounts to a congressional clean sweep, because I have more than a little experience both in finance and in politics. I certified the American Stock Exchange and the NASD trading computers because I was both a principal engineer and an SEC registered financial advisor. I resigned my licenses for 2 specific congressional acts. One was the revocation of Glass-Steagall, and the other was the authorization of the Treasury Department to make secret transactions of any volume whatsoever. Under those conditions, I was satisfied, this was 20 years ago more or less, I was satisfied that the American stock market is absolutely rigged from beginning to end, and that the only alternative to that was to get a clean sweep in Congress. I have done work for Ralph Nader, recently for Deborah Medina, and I just a month ago completed, all for free, a manpower analysis for Ohio Congressional District 6 for James Traficant. Now, I will name names if I am asked them, but
well, Al, let me say this. Send us your name, your info. We'll check on you. You sound very credible. I'd like to have you on as a guest, even in studio, if you're in Texas or over the phone, with your information. And so we'd like to talk to you. In fact, we'll put you on hold and get your number, and you can send us your info. And but any other points you've got for folks, or questions or comments?
I just have a quick question. You're finance. I'm finance. I'm not talking to the candidates. I'm talking to the campaign managers. And the campaign managers are finance people. And I just recently was stunned, just flabbergasted, when in passing I happened to mention that the American government had a new policy of assassinating Americans. The campaign manager for one of these candidates didn't ask me what my evidence was. He said flat out, that's a lie. And I said, no, it isn't, and I will be happy to put together...
Well, no, that was in AP and UPI that they will assassinate Americans they believe are tied to terror, and they're saying they're going to arrest Americans. They have bills introduced without due process if they claim they think you might be a terrorist and strip you of your constitutional rights.
That's true. And I said, I'll put together a half a dozen of these film clips for you, which I did. I called him back, gave him the link to my server. Again, I provide all these services to politicians for free. And I gave him the link to my server to these half a dozen video clips of this. To this day, he has never logged on to that link.
Well, let me raise this point and then come back and get Bob's take on it, Al. When you look at all the major finance ministers in major nations, you look at local mayors, city managers, they're all run by the big banks. Bob Chapman.
That's right, and these people just don't want to know. And he probably knew already, but didn't want to admit it and said, I don't believe it.
He didn't say I don't believe it. He said that I was lying.
Well, it's tantamount. It's another way of putting it.
Well, I read like 7 or 8 mainstream news articles yesterday where they said they're going to kill and secretly arrest and torture citizens and strip us of our rights, and that the Pentagon has this power. Al, give us your phone number. We'd like to talk to you, okay? We're going to put you on hold. Stay there, Bob Chapman. More calls. I'm going to rattle through your phone calls, your questions for Bob Chapman on what's happening with the global economic meltdown, what happened with the 1,000-point plunge, and then it going right back up with the plunge protection team run by the federal government manipulating the market. We're going to discuss this all with Bob Chapman right now. He's with us to the bottom of the hour. Then I'm going to continue with your phone calls about what happened yesterday and get into some other very important police state news. We have footage of a SWAT team up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com with my commentary going into a house over a gram, that's less than a joint of marijuana, killing both their dogs, including a Welsh Corgi, pointing guns at little kids, and then sending the CPS to try to take the kids because they had marijuana. Meanwhile, we have the Fox News clip in the clip where they admit our government's growing the opium in Afghanistan. Now, they've been caught flying cocaine in. Congressional hearings in the 70s and in 96 admitted the CIA ships a lot of the narcotics in. The big banks launder it. By keeping drugs illegal, that keeps the price high, which the banks can then launder. But Bob Chapman, it's been in foreign newspapers that our government has more than, it's 12 times plus a year ago, the amount of opium being produced pre-2001 in Afghanistan. But now to put Marine commanders on Fox News to say, yes, we help them grow it. If we don't, Al-Qaeda will sell it and make money. So, we've got to sell it because they'll sell it if we don't. No, you decriminalize it. But this is how they corrupt the troops in Vietnam. It's how they corrupted them in World War II for narcotics. You worked in military intelligence before you became one of the biggest gold and silver traders out there, before you started your top newsletter, the International Forecaster, and the ones that were before that. But what can you say about government narcotics trafficking and the fact that they are openly admitting now they're shipping the drugs in, but then when you're caught with marijuana, we're going to kill your dog and take your kids?
Well, the OSS got involved with MI6 in the late 1930s in the opium trade. Prior to that, the privateers were running opium from India to China on behalf of the British royal family. And so America has been directly involved in the process of distributing narcotics, which happens to be the most lucrative trade in the entire world, and almost every fortune of the royal families of Europe was made from the narcotics business. Now, I've interviewed about 15, almost all Marines in Afghanistan, who told me they were guarding the opium poppies. That was their job. And so what the colonel has said is absolutely true, and they're going to continue to do it. And they're producing 93% of the world's opium right now, and the largest crop of marijuana in the world. And the first place they flood is Europe, and of course the Russians are furious about it. And
yeah, that's in Reuters. They're saying spray the poppies, and our own government, NATO, says no, we're growing it. And they put Marines on TV with Geraldo telling us it's good that our government grows it and ships it out. But then the cops go in and kill people's dogs and laugh at them over a gram of marijuana in front of little kids in a middle-class home. It's so elementary. They ship it in as a pretext to enslave us and put us in prison and control our lives and to put us in their private prisons owned by big banks that launder the money. I mean, this is disgusting. And I've got a key video up on Infowars.com I'm asking listeners to make go mega viral. Government admits they deal heroin, yet terrorize families for pot. This 10-minute video, it is just so disgusting to see this, Bob. And look at Mexico collapsing from their phony drug war, where the U.S. government and the Mexican government are admittedly trying to knock out their competition down there. That's all this is, and it threatens to collapse our southwestern states.
Absolutely correct. And you get it nailed. It's a fight to take over the drug business by the CIA and the Mexican government. And there's absolutely no question. And the wealthy Mexicans look the other way, and the average Mexican, what's he going to do? And, you know, they're fighting with these groups, and the groups are fighting among each other for, you know, pathways into the United States and things like this.